Voices serves as the megaphone for individuals who have endured transformational change. By highlighting trials and triumphs, our desire is to create a safe space for pivotal conversations, which in turn will deepen the story and provoke hope for you, our listeners. As you may know, change is never easy, but it is inevitable. You are not alone in what you're facing. Your transformation is possible, purposeful, and now. And here's Erin Wiggum, founder and managing director of New You, with this week's guest.
Welcome to another edition of New Voices. My name is Erin Wiggum, and I am your host for today. I'm also the managing director of New You. New You is a way for individuals to imagine, discover, and actualize a 2.0 version of yourself. And so today we have a wonderful guest with us here on New Voices. I worked with this young lady a little while ago. And actually, I interviewed her before she came to Tulsa, and we made an immediate connection. And then she ended up coming here. We worked together for a season of time, and then she went on to do bigger and better things. She is truly a gift to wherever she works or resides. I know her to be a woman who is very focused. I know her to be a woman who is very creative. I know her to be a woman who is very thorough. I know her to be a woman of integrity, a woman who does what she says she's going to do. And that's really not easy to find in our current world. But she's been a friend to me and a confidant, and she's helped me navigate some waters. And so you're going to get to meet today the wonderful, amazing the managing director of Generator, Miss Anita Ly. Welcome, Anita.
Thank you so much. That introduction nearly made me cry, and I was like, "No, hold it in." But I'm excited to be.
Oh yeah, hold it in. No tears.
No, I'm excited to be on your podcast.
Yeah,
I've watched it for a while now.
Yeah, we're excited to have you as well. It's been, you and I, we've had several conversations offline about the work you're doing. And I even came down to OKC to help you with one of the accelerator initiatives that you did and whatnot. And, I fully support the work that you're doing. And I just think that you're an amazing human. And when we scripted out the list of people to have on the show, I said Anita's one of those people. We need to definitely highlight her story. So this has been long time you've been in our thoughts.
Thank you for that.
Absolutely. So let's get right into it. Let's go back to the beginning. Just walk us through the Anita Ly story, wherever you like to start. Typically, guests take us through a timeline, but however you feel comfortable, share with us the Anita Ly story.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I think people now that meet me only know me as the person that's on the investor side working with startups. But very few people currently know that I actually had a whole career before that as a scientist in pharmaceutical companies. So I was raised in the Bay Area, super diverse melting pot, and did my undergrad in biochemistry because I knew I really wanted to be involved in helping people. Thought I was going to end up in the medical field, and I decided in my sophomore year of college to shadow a trauma surgeon. And I ended up being traumatized myself and realized really quickly, doctor was not it. I kind of like what you said. Yeah. I put my heart and soul into everything. I take things very personally, and just the thought of losing a patient and it potentially being, something I did was something I couldn't handle. So I ended up going into pharmaceuticals and wanting to work with a pharmaceutical company to help create drugs that would improve lives. And I got to do that for a few years. I worked at AbbVie and really enjoyed, learning the ins and outs of what it's like to work for a corporation. But it just didn't really vibe with me as a person. I need things to be efficient and effective, and I like to see results quickly. And there was just so much red tape, so much regulations, and I just started to get bored. So I decided that there were two things I wanted change in. One, I wanted to change in the place that I was at. I'd grown up in this bubble called the Bay Area. And I knew that the rest of the country didn't really reflect what the Bay Area was like. So I decided to go and look for a PhD program that was outside of the coast. And I toured around the country. And it came down to the University of Oklahoma and University of Colorado. But when I was here in Oklahoma, I just had a moment where I was so shocked by how nice everybody was and genuinely kind and really wanting to understand what I wanted out of my life and wanted to help make it happen. And I never really had that experience. Very much stereotypical Bay Area, West Coast, like everyone's so cutthroat and out for themselves. And it was just such a polarizing, different experience that I decided I got on the plane to go home. And I remember texting my boyfriend at the time, I'm moving to Oklahoma. And that was crazy. That's now it's not so crazy. You've got Tulsa Remote's program and stuff, and tons of people are moving into Oklahoma, which is amazing. But at the time in 2017, everyone just thought that I was crazy. But I would say it was the best personal decision that I have made because it opened so many doors into a completely different world and opportunity. Once I got here, I started my PhD in biochem, still thinking I was going to go back into industry and, maybe become a PI or run my own lab someday. But I think one of my favorite things about myself is that I always leave myself open to opportunities. I always crack the door open. And during my first semester, there was an opportunity that came up. The university had just opened the Tom Love Innovation Hub and spun out a program called the Oklahoma Catalyst Programs. And they were looking for someone who believed in female empowerment, had a STEM background, and wanted to support entrepreneurs. And I thought initially...
Look, they were looking for you.
I didn't think that. But I thought, great, if I could take this part-time work, I wouldn't have to TA any longer. So I went and did it.
Oh, okay. Got it.
And then I fell in love with talking to all these female founders and entrepreneurs in Oklahoma and learning their story of how they turned from, their STEM background and turning it into a business and commercializing and pushing past the research stage, which was what I was really stuck on, is everyone in academia does amazing research. They patent it sometimes, but then it stalls out. It doesn't ever make it into the market, or very rarely does it do that. And kind of going back to, I need to see results, like that whole thought process of being in a PhD for 4 to 8 years and then not really, continuing on with that research, it just didn't sit well with me. And by that point, I had created the Oklahoma Women Impacting STEM and Entrepreneurship Conference for 2 years now, that had ran in Oklahoma City and Tulsa. And I started building my network. I started understanding, the George Kaiser Family Foundation and a lot of the very early stage developments happening in Tulsa, as well as Oklahoma City. And I just felt in my heart and in my gut that there was an opportunity there to do something impactful. So I, to my parents' demise, I left my PhD program and went and did an MBA to really solidify my foundational knowledge of everything I wanted to go into. And I began my second career path of working with startups. And that's kind of where it led to where I am now.
Nice. That's wonderful. And so let's go back real quick. You mentioned a couple key things I just want to touch on. You said growing up in the Bay Area. Let's talk about the Bay Area. As you kind of lived through the time where it really hit a boom, right? Like the Bay Area changed a lot over the course of your lifespan. Can you talk a little bit about that and like the implications? Like what help the rest of the country kind of understand the evolution of the Bay during your lifetime?
Yes. So I was actually born in Minnesota, but we moved to the Bay Area to be with my parents, or my dad's side of the family in 95. So I was in the Bay Area from 95 to 2017. During that time, I saw so much explosion when it comes to high tech and biotech and anything tech, really. And that was really exciting to see. Everything flourished. Businesses were growing. Home prices skyrocketed. But then the downside, for me at least, was the density. Like, a drive, a supposedly 20-minute drive started taking 2 hours. At one point, my commute was 2 to 2.5 hours for 20 miles just to go to work. And sometimes if the bridge had an accident, you'd be sitting there for, half a day. And at that point, you're not going to work. And that was just taking a mental toll on me. And I'm easily affected by my surroundings. So it was taking a lot on me. I definitely hit a patch of depression for a very long time. And I genuinely just felt myself becoming more negative. Like the way people know me here in Oklahoma, they're always saying that I'm, very positive, very like bubbly and that was not who I was in the Bay Area. And my favorite story was I went back after moving to Oklahoma for the first time in December of the year. And I went to go hang out with my friends that were still there. And everyone said, "You are so different. Like, we almost don't recognize you because of how much physically moving to a different location had changed who I was in a really good way." So that was a huge part of why I felt the need to leave the physical location that I was at, was because the environment just no longer suited what I needed in my life.
Yeah, and I had a similar experience. I remember going a few years ago. 5 of us went to Vegas. One of my friends had a bachelor weekend in Vegas. And so, it was about 5 or 6 of us. We meet up in Vegas. We're hanging out. We're having a nice steak dinner at a restaurant or whatever. And I remember talking around the table and saying, like, what are you guys planning for next year? Now, we're still in the pandemic. This is like 2021 maybe, or 21. And so we're still at the height of the pandemic. Like, there are vaccinations at this time, but like, things are still iffy. There's still masks here and there, like, that type of thing. And so I remember going around the table and all the guys talking about, basically they didn't have any plans because COVID kind of ruined, whatever they would have planned for the next year. And I remember sitting back and kind of feeling a little bit like wait a minute, like, don't you realize that more people are starting businesses today than ever before? Don't you realize this great resignation and that people are like redefining their life in this time? Like people are starting new ventures and doing new things, and they're figuring out that they're frustrated with their current life and want to create a new life. Like there's all like, this is time for us to reimagine, not for us to like shut down shop.
Yeah.
But it let me know, just what you're saying, Anita, like it let me know that like coming out of the rat race of the East Coast, I was on the East Coast, you were on the West Coast, coming out of that rat race and having the ability to just kind of like breathe and be here in the Midwest has helped me with clarity.
Yeah.
So that like, I probably would have been saying the same thing they were had I been sitting, back home.
Yeah.
But because I'm now here and I'm seeing things happen, I'm seeing, companies, raise rounds. I'm seeing companies have exits. I'm seeing, founders 25, 26 years old go unicorn. I'm around this energy that is happening. And I'm like, why are y'all shutting down? Because the country did. Like people, this is the time to open up and receive what's new. So I can agree 100% with what you're saying, and like how much my outlook and my perspective has changed because of like the reprieve that the Midwest living experience gives you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think if I had stayed in the Bay and not made that 2017 leap of faith, I would still be in the same, scientist position, maybe up a tier or something. Yeah. But I don't think I would be thriving in the same way that I am now.
Yeah, very, very linear track. It's like you're put into a particular swim lane, and you just swim that lane and don't lose focus. Yep. Right. So let me ask you this. When you're thinking about that career pivot and that life pivot, let's talk about the valley of that decision. Though I know you were excited to come to Oklahoma, or you had a conviction around coming, but let's talk about, did you ever have a moment while you were here where you're like, what did I just do?
Oh my gosh.
Is this going to work out? Or like, let's talk about that. Let share some of those thoughts.
Oh my gosh. So many times, especially when I was still in my PhD program. So my initial plan was I was going to do the 4 to 8 years for my PhD here in Oklahoma. And then I was going to leave and move either back to the Bay Area or to Boston. Those are kind of the two major biotech hubs of the country. And there are definitely moments where, as you kind of learn more about the place you're in, and there are great things and there are obviously not so great things, especially for people of color at times. There are days that I sat in bed and I said, oh my gosh, what did I do? There were times that I missed, having a lot of Asian food around me and this and that and the other. And
community and culture.
Right. And it's so much better now. There's such a great variety of food in Oklahoma City and in Tulsa now. But in 2017, it wasn't that diverse quite yet. So that was a huge part. And honestly, when I did make my pivot and I left and I started my MBA, things started clicking, but there were still moments where, I was in my finance class. Like I'm just not a finance person. That was the one class that I struggled the most in. It made me realize that, I'm going to find someone to do that part for me in the future. But there was a moment where I sat there and I said, I don't know if I can cut it out. Like I've been so focused on STEM and had, built my brain around understanding that cycle of my thought process. And now all of a sudden you're pivoting your brain to think in a very different manner and learning all the lingo and learning, how to dress, how to talk, how to do all these things. There are definitely nights where I question, like, should I have just stayed in my PhD program? And then you watch, all the people who joined your program, the people in your cohort going through the next stage and milestone, and seeing them on social media, celebrating, and you're crunching on Excel files and stuff. It definitely,
right.
it made me question it, but I felt like I was in the right path. And even though I was watching all these other people, potentially pass me by on a invisible timeline, I was like, no, I made this choice. I left for a reason. I left because startups bring such an interesting joy to my soul that even though I was, questioning, I was very stressed. I felt like I was starting all over in a way. That feeling of going to my side job every single day and talking to startups and learning how to write proposals and stuff, like that piece of it kept me going. And it definitely pushed past all of the very negative thoughts in my brain.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were able to, disassociate yourself from societal pressures and societal timelines and create your own timeline at your own pace with your own curriculum and your own experiences. And sometimes being able to break away. I remember when I first interviewed you, I forget it was a fellow role or whatever it was. And when you came across, you had this bright red hair, and I'm like, okay, she's gonna be a pistol. She's about to give it to us. And
I'm not normal Oklahoma.
You were very no, yeah. I was like, wow, she's ready. And you came through with such poise and everything. And the thing is, but you were individually you. And that to me is what stood out. And having that, being daring to stand out regardless of societal norms or societal pressures, or maybe not even societal, but like within your workplace pressures, right? Or industry. Where do you feel like you get that resolve from to be a unique individual? Where do you think that resolve comes from for you personally?
That's a tough one, but I think my therapist would agree that it boils down to the way I was raised, in that my family is extremely traditional. And they obviously wanted a daughter who would become a doctor. And when I decided not to be a doctor and I went into a different career path, they were continuously disappointed. And I think early on, I realized that no matter how many straight A's I got, no matter how many piano competitions I won and all the things, it was just never going to be enough because of the culture that I was raised in. And I think I was 16 in that moment. I was like, you know what? Forget it. Forget all of that nonsense being spoken into my brain. Because I had tried. I tried to do exactly what they wanted. I did the piano. I did the art. I did the STEM track. I tried to do pre-med. I didn't dye my hair. Didn't get any kind of modifications, and just was the perfect daughter.
Yeah.
And I still didn't get the validation that I thought I was going to get. And that was the moment that I realized it didn't matter, if I did exactly what a typical Chinese girl is supposed to do, or did what my bosses, expected, like perfectly XYZ of me. I was never going to get the validation. And that's when I said, okay, to myself, like, you can either continue to be disappointed and feel like you're disappointing the world for the rest of your life, or you can just set your own goals and make yourself happy. And
there you go.
I have absolutely still struggle with this. Like, don't get me wrong. lots of crying nights.
Yeah,
where I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I made it to managing director.
It's a process.
Yeah, like I did this on
Yeah.
my own. I never took anything from my family, but
Mm-hmm.
there's still that moment where you crave that validation and you still don't get it. And you
Yeah.
just have
Yeah.
to tell yourself, like,
Yeah.
who cares if, so-and-so is a CEO at 26? Like, great for them. I'm genuinely proud of them and excited for them, but it's not my journey. And I'm no longer allowing myself to compare my journey with anyone else. Because this obviously applies to everything in life, right? Not just your career, but your decisions on relationships and family and all that stuff. So I think that pivotal moment of when I decided, like, screw everything else is when my mental health got a lot better. And I was able to freely make decisions and not worry about, well, so-and-so didn't do that this late in the game. Like, so I'm going to do it now and figure it out from there.
Right. No, and you bring up a great point. I have a mentor in my life who tells me all the time, listen, I want to die old and empty. I want to die old and empty. He says that all the time. And
I love that.
what I'm hearing with what you're saying is, I don't want to be held to somebody else's journey or expectations. I want to live out all of the ingredients of who I am while I have time to do it.
Yeah.
And that is really what life is about. It's about you, if you've been given, 55 nuggets on the inside of you, that all 55 nuggets are exhausted over your lifetime. And whether that is 90 years or whether that is 48 years, like you got all of what was in you out while you had the time to do it. Yeah. And that's not based on a resume or based on, a scoring system or, ABC, grades, or that's based on you being able to activate and employ all of what you are and what you do. And let me just give you your flowers too while we're here. That's one of the things that I appreciate about you. I'll tell you a quick story. When I saw you, when you were at Atento, and we'll get to that in a minute, but when you were at Atento and you started doing the splash stat pages for, I forget the event that they had, but you were creating the splash stats. And I said, I found out it was you who were doing it. And I said, the attention to detail is like impeccable. It was so precise that it made me, who is not a detailed person, pay attention. Like, I was like,
I remember
wow,
this
the level, yes, I was like, people just aren't naturally this thorough, right? And I mean, something as simple as a RSVP link was so thorough and precise, and it just spoke to me about it conveyed your value system. It conveyed your constant pursuit and execution with excellence. And I asked you to help me with some things. I was trying to play around and figure out my stuff. And you said, here, let me just show you how to do blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And you took our stuff from one level to another. And that's just one just very small example, but it shows that like even the small things you put full intentionality into and you do it with integrity. Mm-hmm. And this is why you not only have the gumption or the wherewithal to thrive in your own lane, but this is why you're successful at it. And Generator, in leading Generator, you're helping founders to become successful because of your level of excellence in execution. And so, I just want to give you your flowers while we're in this moment. Like, kudos to you for being the rock star that you are in all that you put your hands to. And that may not come in the form of a grade or in the form of, a degree or a certificate, But let me tell you something. Your name rings bells in the street, and when people, that's an old New York phrase, but your name rings bells in the street, right? You when people like your name is circling tables that you haven't sat at yet, and so kudos to you for that. I just want to celebrate you.
Thank you. I have to thank my man back there, Kobe Bryant. One of the things that he preaches is
Mamba mentality.
Yeah, is that you're constantly trying to be the best version of yourself. And it's very specific. It's the best version of yourself,
Yes.
not compared to anyone else. It's you. You're playing your own game.
No.
Who cares what anyone else is doing? So gotta shout them out, especially, this week. But
that's what's up.
Yeah. So I appreciate that my hard work is recognized. Because it's definitely you have to do it for yourself. You can't do it because you're expecting a promotion or you're expecting validation, which is hard. I mean, I still absolutely do seek it at times.
Yeah.
But do I go to bed at the end of the night and not toss and turn and worry about decisions that I've made? Yeah, absolutely. I feel like everything I do and the amount of work I sink into things allow me to sleep comfortably at night, even if it is at 4 a.m.
Right. Yeah. Right. No, that's good. Let's talk. I got 2 more questions for you. 2 more questions, and then we'll do a call to action. All right. The next question, I really want to get into your duality, because what I'm hearing from you is a very tactical, strategic, scientific person, and then I'm hearing a creative, like innovative, out of the box. Am I accurate in me picking the duality that I'm picking up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. And so, one, how do you navigate that? Well, I'm gonna ask a few questions off of that. All right. One question is, how do you navigate that in your workspace, in your personal life, like the duality of both? And then the other part of that is like, how do you how do you use that as a strength? Like, how do you lean into the fact that you come with this, you're a dual threat or a triple threat? How do you talk us through that?
I think there's a time and a place for each part of my brain.
Okay.
So like, for example, when we were standing up this brand new program in Oklahoma City for Generator, it took a lot of creative thinking and thought processes to build the program out. So I was able to tap into more of my creative side and be more innovative. I didn't want to rely on what other markets were doing, because I knew that Oklahoma and Oklahoma City were very unique to other markets. And I wanted to make sure I understood what the landscape already looks like, so that we weren't, doing too much of the same thing as other people were. And we were creating our own kind of niche and pocket of what we can contribute to founders. So in that sense, I was able to use a lot of my creative side in a way. But when it comes down to execution, once we're in program, it's pure logistics. It's making sure all the mentors get the emails correctly and know who they're about to talk to, making sure our founders have very strict milestones set up on a week-to-week basis. We do 2 hours of, intense deep dive one-on-ones with our founders every week for 12 weeks. So that takes a lot of, very disciplined thoughts. But once we get out of that program, it's the showcase. It's all these community events. And that's where the creative side gets to kick in again. And it's like, how do we create the next level of exposure for our founders? How do I creatively help them with their content creation? How do I help them, increase their sales? Like it takes both parts of me and both parts of my brain in order to tap into how do I help this one founder or these 8 founders be as successful as they can. but it definitely is like an ebb and flow. There's moments where I need to be creative, and there are moments where I just need to focus on logistics and very strategic thinking and hitting all the KPIs and all that. And I think the creative side of me comes from, my musical background, my very short stint in modeling, and art and dabbling. And now I'm dabbling in music. I've got a vinyl collection back here growing. It just kind of comes to me over time, and I use that as inspiration.
Yeah. Nice. That's wonderful. I know I said I had 2 more questions and I should only have 1 left, but I'm going to throw this one in there real quick. Your time in Tulsa. So you were at Atento Capital. Let's talk real quick about how Atento was catalytic in your evolution, in your transition from the science space into the investment space. Can you talk a little bit of how your time at Atento and how it helped to catalyze you?
Yeah, so I started started in Tulsa as part of the talent partner side of working with the portfolio companies to help kind of find their human capital piece of it. And during that time, I gained the courage to ask for what I wanted. And I did. I developed relationships with Atento and with the grace and understanding of my team in Tulsa, I was able to start creating this, I don't know if job description or role is the right word, but like mini department really curated around the experience that founders in Tulsa had. And that came because we were starting to notice that, part of the investment thesis is the founders need to live in Tulsa. And we were sourcing a lot of companies that were not completely based in the region or Oklahoma. And the thought of having someone relocate is daunting. But when they get to talk to someone like me or you or someone who's experienced that drastic cultural shift, and they physically come and get to see the experience, we noticed that had a much better ROI. And we were seeing founders relocating because they were able to see the resources, the energy of surrounding founders for themselves. So that's where the entrepreneur experience piece of it came from. But I took advantage of every single time I was in a room full of interesting and unique humans to learn their stories and learn their own career pivots and make sure that people started to understand that these events that were being created were, a lot of it was my onus. And I stopped shying away from the fact that I should take my own credit. And I know that sounds a little selfish to people, but if you're not advocating for yourself, you can't expect others to do so for you. I was fortunate that I had people like you advocating for me and others in the community. But I also learned to not be ashamed or not feel like I was being too selfish about saying, "Oh, you enjoyed the event? Thank you. I helped create this or strategized around it, or yes, like my names are on the emails because I'm the person leading the charge." And I think that was such a pivotal moment for me as well. Did I really get to utilize my STEM background in a direct way? No, because it didn't fit the investment thesis. But the way I was able to utilize it was my strategic thinking. The way I was able to find the most efficient method to a solution. And that was definitely noticed. Like I always completed what I needed to do in a timely manner because I was able to find the most effective path forward. And when things went wrong, I was able to troubleshoot and figure it out and find another solution to satisfy whoever I was helping with at the time. So um,
Mm-hmm.
that work in Tulsa, I think, was probably one of my most impactful moments, because it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
just a handful of people, it was genuinely a whole community. We were able to create events
It's an
where
ecosystem, yeah.
we drove people that had never stepped foot in the arts district or that part of Tulsa,
Mm-hmm.
to come and
Mm-hmm.
understand and learn about what a startup is, and to learn about what venture capital,
Mm-hmm.
like what this whole deal is about. And of course, I've stepped
Mm-hmm.
away since and have moved back to Oklahoma City, but I still get to hear from founders all the time. And to this day, um, even when I'm here in Oklahoma City and we have people from Tulsa visit, they're like, yeah, we love,
Mm-hmm.
First Friday, and we love these
Right.
programs. And it's so heartwarming for me to be like, I helped create and shaped what those events and those
Yeah.
experiences that people are still having to this day look like.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. And First Friday is the event on the first Friday every month. Like I swear I didn't seen, I don't know, Tupac at First Friday or somebody. There's no shortage of it is the place to be. I mean, like, and not just because, of the whole in crowd type of feel, but more so because like everybody's curious and they're
Right.
getting to meet people who are doing neat things, who are building businesses, who may just have moved to Tulsa, or maybe they're a new father and they're bringing their kids there and they're playing on a
Mm-hmm.
bouncy house while while the dad's drinking a beer and having a conversation about a go-to-market strategy. Like
Yeah.
you don't. That's a very unique blend, and I think that what Atento is doing with that, and what you helped to spawn with that whole First Friday series is just, I think it is jet setting. Like, I think that is something that VCs could adopt all over the country to help people feel a little bit more, a little bit less, I should say, pretense
Mm-hmm.
around the investment space and around like, what it takes to actually grow your business. Even if they're not giving money to them, the exposure gives a lot, right?
Yeah.
They have access to people who are making $1 million decisions weekly, daily or whatever. So,
Mm-hmm.
no, kudos to you all for starting that. My last question to you, and then we'll do a call to action, is if you can walk us through a time. I ask every guest this. Tell us about a time where it was dark and you didn't know what to do. You didn't know this is going to be personally or professionally. You didn't know how you were going to make it out of whatever you were in, and what was the aftermath going to be based on this decision? Can you just walk us through that time and tell us, like, how did you hold on to hope during a dark or pivotal period in your life?
Let's see. I mean, there's a handful of those, but I think the biggest one, and it's probably the same theme throughout this entire podcast, is that moment where
Mm-hmm.
I was just, I was still in my PhD program. I had started working part time with the Catalyst team, so I had exposure to startups, and I was creating this conference to showcase women in STEM startups. But
Mm-hmm.
I was struggling with the way I was splitting my time, because I'm still a full time
Mm-hmm.
student working basically a full time job running a conference. And
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
found myself pulling more towards the startup side and dreading getting out of bed to go to class, but being excited to leave class and
Mm-hmm.
leave the research work that I was doing to go to work and work till, I don't know, 1 or 2 in the morning and then rinse and repeat. Um, And there was a moment where I knew deep in my soul that I was no longer happy with what I was doing, but my pride for sure got in the way. It was pride and then like parental expectations. Of I can't be a quitter. I cannot quit a PhD. I relocated my entire life. I left a relationship that was really good. I left so much to do this one thing. And there's no way in heck I'm going to allow myself to quit. And then a mentor had pulled me aside for lunch and she straight up told me, like, you are miserable. Like, I'm going to be frank with you. I see you every single day, miserable, sitting in our labs. And like, the reason I can tell this story is because like she's amazing. She was my former PI's wife. And she was the one who gave me permission to seek out what actually makes me happy, because she could see in my eyes that I was dying on the inside, but I was excited to leave, where it should have been the other way around. I should have been excited to be in the lab and to do the work that I had signed up for, and then like kind of, you know, begrudgingly gone to work just to get a paycheck. But it was the flip side. And that's when I realized, like, despite all the negative thoughts that were swarming in my head telling me, you can't quit, you're going to be a quitter, your parents are going to disown you, this, that, and the other, I called my dad sobbing, maybe with a little liquid courage. And I told him, I'm so sorry. I'm about to disappoint you, but I can't do this anymore. And that was after hours of like debating if I should even be on this track. Like, am I doing the right thing? And he was just like, I don't know how to help you, but you don't sound happy. And I said, no, I genuinely don't want to do this anymore. And he said, okay, do you want to come home? And I said, no, I think I want to do something else. And they had an inkling of the side work that I was doing. But I don't think they understood how much I enjoyed it. And I think between that conversation with my dad, where he didn't absolutely flip out on me like I thought he would, and that conversation with my mentor being like, you're just miserable, do something different with yourself. That gave me the permission to be like, you know what? I'm going to take a whole week off and sit in my room, pull on my thinking hat and ask myself what I want to do. Like, I don't think I can do the side job I was doing as a full-time career, but like between all the different skills that I had picked up along the way, like what could I actually physically do with it? And that's, I think, how I pulled myself out. I literally made a list. I think it's in a file somewhere in a box. I've moved so many times by now, but I had a physical list where I wrote down the skills that I possess, like, you know, able to analyze numbers. I'm good at Excel. I have Photoshop skills. And then I added in that I was really good at listening to people's stories and identifying ways to help them. And I really love talking to people. So I have a very interesting network of people from all sorts of backgrounds and all sorts of industry experience. And I called it my networker. Like, I was the person that was like building networks for others and not just for myself. And I really love helping people. Like, those were the key things. And there's like a bunch of other stuff that's somewhat relevant, irrelevant. But that, I think that was how I forced myself to write down, what am I good at? And then from there, I talked to other people to understand, what are the career options that I can even have? with the types of things that I enjoy doing. So obviously I went into investments for a while, and then I created an ecosystem in Tulsa. And now I'm a managing director of an accelerator program here in Oklahoma City. What is next? Like, I get that asked that all the time. What is next? I don't know. But my list of skills is continuing to grow, and I'm adding to it. And when that time comes, I will find my next career that, continues to maintain the things that I want to do in my life. But I don't live my life anymore with the specific, like, I have to have this job. I'm aiming for this job in 5 years. Like, I no longer live my life that way.
Right.
It's just, I'm here collecting skills like Pokemon.
Yeah. Tokens. That's good. No, that is, thank you so much for sharing that. That is powerful. That is powerful on so many different levels. And I appreciate your vulnerability. One thing I wanted to add to that is I think it goes completely understated that the value of having a mentor in your life, or having someone, the way I like to say it is, everybody needs somebody in your life that can tell you no. You need to have somebody who like helps to create perimeter for you, right? And if you don't have that person, you need to like look to see how you can develop a relationship with someone, and not you. I'm talking to our audience more so. Look to see how you can develop a relationship with somebody who can give you safe space and has your best interest at heart to tell you, like, pull it together. Like, you're gonna make it out of this, but you can't do that no more, right?
Wow.
And so this has been wonderful. How about a quick call to action, and how can people follow up with you or engage with you, real quick?
Yeah. So if you're a founder, or you are someone who has had an idea for something, a pain point that you've been feeling, and you want to take it to the next level and actually put it to market, I would love to have a conversation with you. I love talking to founders. That's literally my favorite part of my job. And I talk to hundreds of them every single season. So please reach out to me. My email is Anita, ANITA, at generator, GENER, the number 8, TOR.com. And just let me know. Just say, hey, I saw you on the podcast. I want to talk to you. And I'm more than happy. Just like what Aaron said, everyone needs a mentor. I have been a mentor to others, and I continue to strive to find mentors for myself. It's a two-way street for sure. So if anyone would like to have a conversation about what it's like to be a female in VC, or a founder, or any of that world, or even if you think you want to pivot completely and change your career path, I think it helps to talk to someone who's been through that, because the biggest key for me was learning I am not quitting. I am changing, because I've discovered something I'm
You're
better
changing,
at.
right?
So once you
that's good.
change that mindset, life gets a little bit better.
Yes. Oh my God, that's good. I'm not quitting, I'm changing. I love that. Thank you so much for your time, Anita. This has been wonderful. I'll be down to OKC soon to come hang out. We'll get some good food and chop it up a little bit, but I really appreciate your time. Thank you all again for listening to New Voices. You've enjoyed another podcast with us. Please follow us on social media at New You Tulsa. And that's on IG, FB, and LinkedIn. And we look forward to hearing from you soon. Thanks a lot. Have a great one.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of New Voices. Visit our website at www.newuunlimited.com. That is NEWU Unlimited.com. Follow us on social media at New You Unlimited on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And a special thank you to our producer, Jesse Ulrich. If you're looking for self-improvement, join our programs for personal and professional development. New You is a way for diverse talent to imagine, discover, and actualize a 2.0 version of yourself. Bring your future into focus.